watching.
Subscribe.
Hello, you're watching ScreenStalker. I'm Fakidor Laurie Blake, and I'm joined by Chopper Pete Quinnell, and we're discussing the Pokemon Direct that literally just happened, and Pete is still shaking with excitement. You can't see, but his jeans are filling up with happy juice. Well, we'll go through bit by bit and eke out which bits of it made you the most excited, or the tipping point of your tantric relationship with Pokemon, as we'll call it.
So they introduced an opening trailer that kind of showcased all the information they were going to be talking about afterwards, and it looked awesome. It was a really well put together trailer. So many flashes of various things being thrown in. I was like, it's this thing, it's that thing. Oh my god, what is this? What's happening?
The biggest pop for me from this trailer was definitely the bit where it was like, there's wild Pokemon walking around again.
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway from Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was that definitely is a thing you should do. But it seemed like here there was both parts of Pokemon. There's a bit where an exclamation mark appears in the grass, they walk towards it, and a Pokemon battle starts. Or that's the suggestion of the way the trailer is cut together. Or whether all the Pokemon are wild throughout, because it seemed like they were specifically tied to something called the wild area. They later explained that the wild area was something that stretches between the cities and is full of Pokemon. They said that different Pokemon will spawn depending on where you are, kind of what the weather is. And also in this area, you have full control of the camera.
That makes me so happy. The area itself looks gigantic. Like, there's so many different parts. There's lakes and roots and whatever else. And there's obviously loads of different weather conditions that they showed with like sandstorming and raining and hailing and all sorts of stuff. So you'd think it's either going to be like one or a few areas, but I don't think it's the whole game.
What we've seen from the map of the Galar region as well is that like that whole central swathe of it that runs from the big sort of town in the bottom to the top is basically open fields and rivers and stuff like that. So I imagine that is the wild area. And then the bits around the edges of the cities where people live. But I'm really excited if the wild area is what the roots are now, and that does carry across the entire game, and you just see Pokemon wandering around the environment, because that was the most exciting bit of the trailer for me, was the bits where they're on that like water bike thing that they were on for the Pokemon jet ski, and they see like Melodic and all that kind of stuff. Should have done it, well, I don't know, 10 years ago, but yeah, fine, we'll get there in the end. We then had James Turner, who is an art director at Game Freak, come through in the largest t-shirt I have ever seen somebody wear, and very slowly talk us through the Pokemon that are in the game.
Awkward jump cut.
Now.
So James Turner took us through some of the new Pokemon that we've got in the game. The first one was Wooloo, which is a sheep. Wooloo! Wooloo! I don't know what that was. So it's a fluffy sheep. So we had Gossifleur, which is a flower Pokemon. Looked kind of similar to like Cherubi Roselia, kind of. Cross
like
thing.
Floette.
And then they revealed the evolution for that afterwards as well. Eldegoss is what it is, which is basically just...
Look like a dandelion.
We also had Dreadnought, which was a giant, what's it called, like a snapping turtle?
Yeah.
And then we had...
Not very British so far.
No, not very British so far.
Sheep, I guess. We've got bland animals. We killed all the good ones.
And then lastly, we had Corviknight, which was just a straight up, just like fully like black bird, hawk.
We've got crows already, so I feel like this would be a raven. When I first saw it, my initial note was like, oh, Tower of London type thing. Like they'll do a tower that's surrounded by these Corviknight things. Next trailer, they'll reveal a corgi Pokemon that hangs out with the queen.
They'll reveal a Pokemon that's just a cup of tea, and then one that is also a crumpet.
One that is a Brexit. Just a Nigel Farage Pokemon.
They did reveal for Corviknight that it works essentially like Fly. Essentially works as like a taxi service. You can fly back to cities that you've already visited.
There was a little shot after they had revealed that it was the Corviknight on a perch, but the perch was a little taxi box that you ride in. Probably the meat is already running before you get in though. It's just, there'll be an off-brand, unlicensed Corviknight service with just 70 Pidgeys tied to a cabin. And then they announced the big thing for the game, big being the operative word, Dynamax!
Dynamax!
Dynamax! Which sounds like a protein shake or potentially a panty liner. You wearing a Dynamax today? I am wearing my Dynamax today, thank you very much. Very absorbent they are too. It makes Pokemon really big, is basically the thing. I mean, to me, that is the death of ideas right there. We've had Z moves, we've had mega evolutions. People were like floating around the idea that it would be like armored evolutions. No, they just get really big. You thought this was cool though.
I did think it was very cool. I was very into it. I probably won't be as into it after I've seen the animation for like the first 2-3 times. Then after that, I think the sheen will probably wear off.
And almost completely torpedoes the battling system to me, because it just goes like, well, this is what's happening now, so you have to do yours. It might not be the case that like maybe a regular-sized Pikachu could kill gigantic Gyarados, but we don't know.
They did explain a bit more about the Dynamax and said that once per battle, you get to do it, obviously only on one Pokemon, and you get 3 turns with it. All of the moves that they already learned turn into like ultra powerful versions of them called max moves, which I assume are essentially Z moves, but not. After the 3 turns, they just revert back to being what they were before, which I think is like, it's half Mega Evolution, half Z moves, like mashed together.
The reason that Dynamax, I think, exists is for this other part of the game that they revealed, is that 4 players can link up, basically, in the wild area around these weird circles of stone, and they basically go into what is essentially a raid battle from Pokemon Go. It's multiple players coming together to take on one of these gigantic Dynamax Pokemon. The only difference is that Dynamax Pokemon doesn't revert to its normal form after 3 turns. It remains gigantic. Also, they said there's a few other tricks up its sleeve that they didn't go into. But
it's got extra powers.
Yeah, only one player during these matches can also have one of their Pokemon Dynamax. So you have to kind of be tactical and working as a team to work out which Pokemon is probably the best one to turn into the Dynamax Pokemon.
So that's going to lead to much frustration from players when they go on the internet, try and get some good players to do a good raid battle, and then instantly, I can guarantee you, one player will Dynamax their Pokemon.
Oh, there's
instantly.
so much bandwidth for dickery. I love it.
know.
You would think it's the sort of thing that you could ignore if you don't like to play online, but they did say that some specific Pokemon can only be encountered in the wild area after you've beaten the Dynamax version of it, the big daddy one, I guess.
So we then got an introduction about some of the new characters that you'll be seeing in the Galar region. They started off by showing you the champion of the region. His name is Leon.
He looks like a twat. He's got a cap and a cape, and he's basically wearing basketball gear.
He has an undefeated record in matches, supposedly. He has a Charizard, and he's the champion of the region. The Galar region really focuses on battling. That's like one of their big forms of entertainment. So because he's a really good battler, he's essentially a celebrity. He's got like fans following him around and stuff, so he's a big deal. Then they introduce you to Hop, which is Leon's younger brother, and he's your rival, supposedly. I really hate the fact that rivals, ever since like Gen 3 onwards, have just been your friends.
It makes it worse when you call them Beef Curtain, or you give them a weird name.
When you call them Dildo Head.
Yeah, exactly. Knob jockey. And then we also got to meet Professor Magnolia, who is an old biddy, and Sonia, her granddaughter, who is her assistant, and together they research the Dynamax phenomenon like a lot of the modern Pokemon professors are, generally speaking, researching whatever the new gimmick is that they've added to the game. Stop making new things up. Go back to Mega Evolutions.
Just give us the same game.
To the bottom of that. Anyway, we then also met the first gym leader for the game, Milo,
Milo.
who looked like a Cabbage Patch Kid who taken
did.
a lot of steroids.
He was a grass-type gym leader. He had a Dynamaxed Eldegoss behind him.
They also said that in gyms, generally speaking, the gym leader will have a Dynamaxed Pokemon. And finally, they revealed the legendaries for Pokemon Sword
Cover
and
boys.
Pokemon Shield, and they are a sword and a shield through the medium of wolves.
Woof.
They are named Zacian and Zamazenta.
Zamazenta and Zacian, I believe.
I've been on holiday to Zamazenta. Isn't that where Love Island's filmed?
So Zamazenta was the shield one, which is basically a dog with a shield on his face.
Oh, shield face.
Zacian is a dog with a sword in its mouth.
I thought these legendaries looked pants. One, they're super lazy. 2, they don't even match, because one of them is a regular dog holding a sword.
Yep.
And the other one is literally the shield.
Yeah.
Is its face.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded if it was shield face and like sword horn. I like the color scheme on it, and I think the actual idea of them is good, and I like the armor look of them, especially if it's sword and shield. But just having literally a shield face and a sword in the mouth of a thing is a bit lazy.
I don't think it needs to be so literal. But then, and then in X and Y, this is when they started just doing literal, like, this Pokemon is an X.
Yes.
And this one is a Y. And then it was Sun and Moon, it was like, this one is a moon. This one is a sun. So now we're down here in Sword and Shield going, it's got a shield face. I can't wait to see what they do with Pokemon Gun and Bullet, the next ones in the series, or Pokemon Wallet and Watch.
So then they cut back to Ishihara at the start of the thing, and he just said, I'd like to reveal the release date. It's going to be November the 15th, 2019. And then he also announced a double pack where you could buy both sword and shield, I'm assuming for a slightly reduced price, although this is Nintendo, so it's probably like £1 off.
You get a free fish and chips. That'll be a Pokemon, fish and chips.
Oh, a fish and chips Pokemon. Giant seagull Pokemon has to happen.
One's a pier. One's one of those inexplicable seaside steam trains. One's a racist. So that is all of the news from today's Pokemon Direct. Some of it really rather overwhelming, some of it incredibly underwhelming, I think. But what could be more British if that's where you're basing your region? I've been Fakidor Laurie Blake. This has been Chopper Pete Quinnell. And remember, we're watching.